First up this morning, we're joined by James Norman from Dell. He's here to talk to us about how we can prepare ourselves for the challenges posed by staff and students' changing data needs. James, thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. It's good to know that you can't escape, so thanks for that, Gareth. Morning. I've seen some bleary eyes around this morning, especially the receptionist, who is very bloodshot, so it was obviously a very good night. So I will try and keep this to time, because you will not want me hanging on. So what are we talking about today? Normally, when I'm brought up onto these stages, it's to talk about digital transformation. But you'd be glad to know that I'm not going to talk about that today. So I'm going to talk about workforce, and the theme is around focusing on the individual, about improving efficiency, improving delivery, and improving attractiveness of the organisation. So how can you do all that? Well, you need to focus on transforming the workforce, and there's a bit of a lisp here, and enabling the student. So what does that mean? I work for an IT company, so I can't not talk about IT. PC is still the primary device, where work gets done. We haven't moved away from it. I know we talk to each other occasionally. Most people will actually email each other, even if they're right next to each other. My kids will sit in one room and they'll actually email or Facebook each other in the next room because they're just too lazy to get off their arses and go and talk to them. That's happening in the workforce as well. And students, we all know, well, that's just the norm now. This is the information generation. They were born into the internet age. They almost came out of the womb with an iPad. This is what happens nowadays, where kids have got smart devices. But it's not just the kids. Everyone now lives with a smart device. So the PC is number one. I've already been instructed not to walk past this invisible line. So the PC is number one, but everything else around us is changing. The way that we work is changing. You're no longer chained to a PC. Now, why is that important when we talk about workforce transformation? It's very important because this is about the conversation you now need to start having with your staff and your students about how you transform the way that you work and you provide services for them that will enable them to move on. And of course, technology is changing. I talked about smart devices very briefly as an introduction. End users. Well, students demand a lot more of us. I said we're born into the information generation. The millenniums came out having known the internet all their lives. They know how to do things, or my kids certainly know how to do things that I certainly don't know. And the way that they do it is almost native to them. I'll have to look at an instructions or go to help to find out how to open a file on certain devices. Them, they just know what to do. The amount of fingerprints I have on my TV screen at home from my 5-year-old who just automatically goes up and prods trying to work out why she can't change the channel and then has to find which remote she needs to use. End users are demanding change. You need to be able to cater for that. And we're all aware of what's happened over the last few months around IT security, the WannaCry, the Petya. Malware, IT security has really raised up against its threat level in terms of the visibility in the press, in the boards, across the campuses. People are now becoming more aware of cyber security and just general IT security, safety. These are things that people need to bring into the mind when they're talking about workforce transformation. And also, who's buying? It used to be, IT, I need a laptop, or IT, I need a PC. That's gone now. Marketing will come out, IT, I need such and such thing, well, you can't have it. Right. I'm going onto the web and buying my own. I've got my own budget, I don't need you. And then it'll be, IT, I now need you to configure this new laptop that I've just bought, or this new shiny tablet that I've just bought. And by the way, I want all these applications put on it, because I saw them on the web and they looked really good. I don't care if they're going to break the system and bring in malware. I just want them. So technology shifts, whether they're small or large, they dramatically change the way that we work. And they dramatically change the way that you need to think about IT and the way that you need to engage with staff and students and citizens, anyone who's involved in the education arena who you've engaged with, from department out to citizen on the street. You need to think differently about the way that you engage and manage that. Now, change is scary. We know change is scary. We've been taught from a young age that change is scary. Standards are good. I'm IT, standards are brilliant. But actually, you should be using change to turn that into an advantage. Turn that into a way to compete against other organisations. New tech, new freedoms, breaking the chains, these are all great ways to bring new talent into the organisation. But it's also great ways to attract students to come to your organisation, knowing that they can do things that they can't do elsewhere. You know, attracting and retaining the best talent isn't always about the money. And in fact, in all the jobs I've had in the past where people have come to me saying, I'm not happy, I want a pay rise, I've said, what's not made you happy? It isn't the money, it's about the working conditions most times out of 10. Yes, they all want a bit of money, but suddenly you give them a bit of a pay rise and they're still unhappy. So you've got to work out what actually attracts people, what makes people happy. Funding, as long as it's comparable with their peers, they'll be all right. But the working conditions, that makes a great difference. So make sure that you're using IT, and everything's digital, so we have to use IT. You can use a paper book if you want, but that really isn't going to attract the talent to come to you. Freeing up your IT, though, will also enable people to work more efficiently. And by that I mean work remotely, work outside of the organisation, carry out lectures in different countries, get to students who are thousands of miles away in different time zones. You can reach people that you could never reach before. This makes a massive difference to the way that you work, but also to the individual, where you can now start to work around people's lifestyles. You don't have to engage on a 9-to-5 basis. You can actually bring in the freedoms of, well, I've got childcare, so I'm going to drop the kids off and I'm going to start at 10. Or actually, I work or I look after the kids during the day. I'm not available until night time, but I can work throughout the night until 2 in the morning. I'm happy to do that. Now you can enable that. The barriers in terms of the timescales and the time restraints, suddenly they're being lifted, as long as you bring in the right technology that enables that to happen. But you need to be able to address certain things. Security. If you bring the freedoms, you've got to make sure it's secure. You can't expose risk into the organisation. Why? Because you'll be sacked. Simple. If you bring in an unsafe environment and you expose it and it takes down your organisation, who will they point the blame at? You. Perhaps not you, but whoever's in charge in your organisation. And if you're in HR, marketing or finance and you went out and bypassed IT and bought your own laptop, then it will be you. So you need to bring that in. But once you start to do this, you then bring in greater challenges. It's all very well we're saying, let's free the students, let's free the staff member, let's open up and become nice and attractive and open to business. But how do you manage that? All of these things that people talk about that we want in the organisation, we know it will make us more attractive. We know that it will move us up the rankings. We know that we can attract research grants. Well, that's a bigger challenge, because you've got to manage that environment. You've got to manage those laptops, those PCs, those tablets, those smart devices, those monitors, those Internet of Things, the VR, the AI, everything that you're bringing in. It all sounds great, it all sounds very sexy, but you've got to manage it. And how do you do that? Well, you haven't got more money to invest in more staff. In fact, it's going the other way. The challenges are you've got to reduce your costs. You've got to do more for less. So that is a big challenge. Driving down that total cost of ownership is incredibly hard when the demands and the new technology are coming out, saying, we want this, and you're saying, I can only afford that. So you need to think differently about how you do this, how you strategize, change it. Now, what does the data say? It's not just me saying this. We've surveyed customers around the world to look at working patterns. Unsurprisingly, Hands up here. How many do work out of hours? That's way more than 60%. We're above the average here. 2/3 do some business from home. I work on Saturdays. I work on Sundays. Why? Because I've got time when the kids are at dancing or at tuition, or when they're watching their favourite programme and I can finally get some peace and quiet to do something. Because I'm on the road a lot, places like this. You know, it's hard to sit down and get time to catch up on your work, and you start to fall behind and you feel guilty. So you put yourself into a position where you work outside of the core hours, and we all do it. You know, I came from the public sector. I used to do 70, 80 hours a week. I was a hospital, in a hospital. I wasn't a hospital. I shrank a little bit, yes. But we're all working outside the environment. Sorry, invisible line. And what happens? 95% of the security breaches take place at the endpoint, outside of your environment. Why? Because you're connecting to your home Wi-Fi. You're using your home devices. You think, I'll take this home, this piece of work on this USB stick, and I'll use my home computer because it's already connected to the printer. I'll just move it over here. It's fine. All I'm doing is copying it. Well, actually, all you've done is just increase the opportunity for a virus to get in. But you don't know that. You've got antivirus at home. Yeah, the home antiviruses will capture 40% of viruses, if they're lucky, out in circulation. Do you think the WannaCry got passed because people didn't have antivirus? They did. Petya, they had antivirus. They're signature-based. These new viruses, these new malwares, they're not signature-based. They are signatures, but they create a signature. But they are new. They're unknown. There's something like 10 million malware hitting the internet every single day. And it's not that it's brand new code that some little, spotty irk is sat in his room developing. It's the same malware. What they're doing is they're using £9 software that they've got off the internet to repackage the malware, because they know that they can put a new look on it and send it out. Someone else has written it. All they've done is push it out. Why? Because they've set themselves up a Bitcoin account, and they're now thinking this is a great way to make some money and no one will know about it. And it takes them under a minute to repackage malware. That's why so many organisations were hit by WannaCry. Why? Signature-wise, once it was picked up, all the antivirus shut it down in a very short period of time. What they do is they repackage and they sent it back out. And every time it just repackaged itself. It changed its nature. Now, obviously, I wouldn't be talking about that if we didn't have a solution, but I'm not going to go through what those are. But this is a great opportunity just to say, because I forgot to mention it at the start, and I will get slapped for doing so. Dell EMC is part of a technology, a family of technologies. So we're actually part of Dell Technologies. Why is that important? Well, we're no longer just Dell. No, it doesn't work. We're no longer just Dell. Dell and EMC came together to create the largest privately controlled IT company in the world late last year. We brought in VirtuStream, Pivotal, VMware, security on the RSA and Security side. All of those are complementary technologies and separate organisations where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. You could work individually or you could work together. We brought them together because actually they benefit the customer. But they're entitled and they're actually encouraged to work independently to get the best value for you. So there's the corporate spiel. So if you want to protect the data centre, you must protect the endpoint, because that's the biggest route in. But there's a bit of a conundrum here, because we want to free the individual. We want to open up to the students come in. So how do you transform the workforce if you're locking down the data centre and you're locking down the endpoint? How do we free them? Bit of a challenge there. Now, end users, it's very bright, increasingly, I think I've gone blind, are very demanding. You are beholden to your end users. How do you get paid? What is the role, what is the purpose of your organisation? It's to satisfy the end users. It's to bring more in. It's to deliver more. it's to bring in research, it's to bring in students, it's to increase your reputation, the value of the organisation. How do you do that? If your students are saying, I want more, you know, the workspace isn't right, I don't like the tech that I've got, you know, I don't feel that I'm being supported to be innovative. I know other organisations, they've got high-performance computer, you know, on tap. I can go in. I don't need to request it. I can just download it. I've got workspaces to myself. I've got environments that allow me to collaborate. Well, actually, everyone needs to do that. And it's important because the data tells us that if you can't do that, people will go elsewhere. Student, staff, doesn't matter. You know, your brand will go down. Your value will go down. So you need to be constantly changing and innovating, because the way that you support and change and transform your workforce is as much as the back end as it is the individual. Now, surprise again. Yeah, we provide the most manageable devices. Now, it's not me saying this. Well, it is me saying this. But actually, it's customers saying this. Yeah, Lakelands Academy. Interactive projectors that bring the students into the teaching environment rather than sitting there and writing. It's changed and transformed the way they work. McLean Fogg, Humana, Wells Fargo, all these great big names talk about the benefits that we can bring, not just in terms of a shiny laptop, but in terms of the management of the devices, the management of the environment, so that they don't need to worry about it. The visibility of where the risks are, the visibility of how things are being used, and the ability to drive down the cost of providing those services and that environment to what it was before. To improving it, but actually reducing the cost, because it's taken the pain away from the individual. We're doing it all for you. But you do have this emergence of what's called the functional buyer. IT used to be the core. How many are IT in here? Thank God for that. Do you know, I did an education conference last year, and it was a very IT title. And I said, right, started talking. I could see heads nodding. A couple of people got up and said, how many are IT? 3 people put their hand up. I thought, okay. Lesson learned. So, functional buyers. How many have suffered from departments going out and buying their IT and bypassing you? I'm an ex-IT director. It was my biggest nightmare, trying to keep a tab on what was being bought, by who, being plugged into the network, being managed. And usually it was when something went wrong that I found out that he'd gone and bought something, because they then said, I need you to support it. You know, support what? I didn't even know about it. This is happening more and more. But actually, do you stop it or do you embrace it? Technology decisions are no longer made by individuals. They're made by committees based on what you want to do, or they should be. Very important, that last bit. Finance, they'll go for the cheapest. Marketing, they'll go for the sexiest. HR, they'll go for the easiest to use. I'm not being stereotypical here. This just happens to be how it happens, you know, how it works out. But lots of studies have shown that, you know, it is influenced more and more by HR than it is from finance and from other departments. Why? Because it's just about getting something simple that they can get out there for students, for staff. They want simplicity. They don't want to know how things work. They want to make sure it fits them, it's light, it's not going to cause repetitive strain injury or damage to ligaments, and that they can connect when they're out of work. It's all about enabling a different workforce. And what that means is the conversation needs to change. And I don't mean between you. Yeah, we know that the conversation needs to change because we're constantly firefighting. I mean, up there, the conversation needs to change. Yeah? It needs to change with everyone who is in charge of budgets. It needs to change with everyone who is making decisions from the management tiers all the way down. And the conversation also needs to change with the staff and with the students, because you can't make decisions about these things without engaging with the people who are going to use them. So I've got a little guide for you. Yeah, I'm very helpful. I always like to bring something with me. Yeah, okay. This is all I brought. It's a guide. It's a 5-step. It's not a strategy. It's just 5 areas to help you in terms of those conversations. 1, get them interested. Talk about the trends, talk about vision, talk about the capabilities of new technology, and then talk about how you're lagging behind on that capability. Talk about how bringing new technology in will unleash the workforce, how it will innovate the students, how it will raise the profile of the organisation. That always gets them. Make sure that you're responding to the challenges that are coming out. You know? Listen to the staff, listen to the students. Actually, they can tell you about new things that they need, new ways of working, better than you trying to guess all the time. So find ways to capture that. Find ways to listen and understand what they're doing. Make sure that you don't expose yourself, and that is very important. Number 4, security. There are tools and there are ways of working that can give you the freedom, allow people to come in, whether it's bring your own device, choose your own device, open standards, download software. There are multiple ways that you can do it, going onto a cloud, working totally remotely from any device, using a virtual desktop. Doesn't matter. Make sure that you understand the risks around it. Make sure that you understand the governance that you're putting in place, that you've got a good grip on it. Don't rush in to doing something because you're being pressured into it by your peers. Because you do that, you'll get burnt. Make sure you understand what you're doing and take advice on that. Don't try and say, right, well, I know a little bit about security. I've done my CSG training 2-3 years ago. Or I wandered onto the CERT website. You know, get some professional advice to support you. Help make sure that from the start you've got it right, because it will save you so much aggro and time moving forward. And I can't stress that enough. The amount of organisations I've gone to and I've mentioned security, we got that. Really? Who's that? Who's that over there? Oh, it's Joe Bloggs. Yeah, he does it 10% of his time. Yeah, he did a course last year. He's fine. And innovation. Innovation, that is the heart of what you're here for. Yes, education, of course. All right, so it's near the heart. But innovation is about what we want to try and inspire in students and in our staff. We want them to innovate. We want them to want to come to work. We want them to want to come to the organisations we work in and be proud of what they do, to come up with new ideas, to do things differently. So, you know, a couple of tips on that. Look at new technologies. You know, things like future workspaces. Familiarise yourself, because this, I know the PC is still number 1, but actually the PC is changing. It looks different, looks very nice. But there are some great tools and technologies out there that will really help you to transform the way that you work and free the way that people work within your organisation. Help them to become more imaginative and innovative. We have fantastic tools, obviously, but we work with universities and schools and the public sector, health, fire, ambulances. We work with the banking sector. Why? Because we can bring these technologies, these new emerging trends in technologies. University of Wolverhampton, great one here. We knew students would be comfortable using touch devices, and they've taken to tablets like ducks to water. That was just something simple being brought in, a 2-in-1 device. The ability to not just have to use a keyboard, but actually use your hand. Well, they do it at home, so why not bring it into the workplace? It went down a treat, dead easy. VR, augmented reality, AI, all these great technologies are coming out at the moment, but that's a massive challenge through IT. Why? Because it takes processing power, it takes storage, it takes bandwidth, it takes new networks, it brings in new protocols around Internet of Things, new ways for people to connect, to capture data, analyse it, and guess who's got to do it all? It's you! And you're lucky. But again, Dell EMC, we have the biggest portfolio of VR-enabled technologies. Why? Because we know that that's where things are going, so we've enabled it in from design, so that when you've got it, it's already ready to go. We've worked with the likes of Imperial College, Cambridge University. What have we done there? We helped them with their HPC enablement. You know, building affordable compute power that they can use, that they can make available on demand for students and staff. Who's got a Nest or an Alexa or a Google Home or a smartphone? Anything. Oh, you must have. I've got Alexa. No, just me. Okay. There's a couple. How many of you put security on their passwords? How many have even thought about the risk that it exposes? Well, when you start bringing on sensor devices, which you will do, it brings in a massive challenge. You've got to secure it. You've got to make sure you understand how you do that as well. And again, we can help you on that. Lots of tools. Come and talk to us after. But focus on security is very important. Accelerating the pace of change. Now, this really is important. You know, accelerating how end users can be innovative and creative. You know, using new technologies, using systems that students and staff would want to use at home, bringing it into the workplace. So actually, they want to take on new apps, new devices. And of course, IoT. We can't hide from it. We did a great one with first responders over in Ireland. Sensor devices in with the fire brigade so that they could test on their muse. Early warning scores around bodily functions, whether they were okay or not. But also to locate them in the event of a fire and they get trapped in a building. Simple things that can do the most amazing things. You know, very cheap. These devices are 12p each, but saves someone's life. It's incredible. Okay, I know I've run out of time, so I will very quickly summarise. PC is number one, okay? We know that. We still have to provide them. But actually, things have changed now, and we need to modernise the way that we provide systems. Windows 10's out there, Office 365. People are used to voice, to touch. It's a different way of engaging, a different way of working. It's about apps. It's not about applications. People want to be able to download, work with something that works for them, that's tailored for them, not tailored for you. It's about the individual. So you need to be able to automate this. You can't build up your resource to cater for it. You've got to come up with new ways to manage that. Zero touch. This is about hands off and allowing the individuals to do it. Providing the support where it's needed, dedicated to it, so people don't get a bad experience and just throw it out the window. Once you lose someone, it's very hard to get them back on the new technology trend. You've got to keep on with it and support them. Secure it. Absolutely, I should have put that in bold. Make sure you're securing things. And put some data protection in. Yeah. The amount of people who had no capability to recover when they were hit by the malware is scary. Use this to transform. Transform the culture, the way that people work, the workflow, what you do in the organisation, the way that you provide services. Because actually, once you've got that capability, your status will be elevated. You'll no longer be the back-end service. You'll actually be the decision maker. You'll be supporting the way that the organisation runs. Your strategy will determine how things happen across the organisation. Look to new creative clients, new ways of supporting people to work in a different way. And guess what? We can help you with all of that. We can help with the innovation. We can help with the new tech. We can help with the management, with the security. We can reduce your costs. And we can improve the way that you resolve problems. And these aren't just random stats. I know Americans, they'll pull out a stat. Yeah, lies, damn lies, and government statistics was always a great one. Well, actually, these are from our customers, and it's proven that we've been able to do that. So, once again, it's time to change the conversation. Take this back to everyone, and start having that conversation. Thank you.
Time for exactly one question.
Just once, make it good. Go on, I'll answer.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. No, James, thank you very much.